My biggest problem in life is that we always strive to start on time, but we're always either starting late and then we end up never finishing on time. So you kind of
Yeah,
understand the anxiety kind of just builds up.
it
It never
does.
just always,
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Well, hey
and then
everybody, welcome to a tech podcast.
would
I'm
you
just cutting
would
it
you
off.
ch-
All right,
would
that was the worst yes and. Like I just completely did not go with you on your improv premise. I'm so
on that
sorry.
end we're going to be muting Juan for the rest of the show, just to take care of a few little miscellaneous problems. Yeah,
Oh
because that's how
man.
we're doing it today.
Yeah,
No,
Juan had an emergency sort of family trip to deal with, so we're doing the show from a hotel room. And I don't know if you know this, TK, but it's like really late out on the East Coast. Right?
I
Would
well, okay, so there was I never double checked on the timing. I don't like every time you go somewhere, I always assume you go,
Yeah, I'm usually in the Southwest.
central.
You're right. You're
Yeah,
right. No, this I'm not putting this on you. I'm putting this on me. We have people in
yeah.
here like Barry Johnson. Like we got folks who live out on the East Coast, and I don't know if you know this, but when we do our podcast, it's like it's
11.
really late for them.
It's really Barry's sitting there saying, "Mm-hmm, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
I've said this
Confirmed.
before, and I'll say it again. Y'all late,
Citation given.
late to the party. Plus, we started like 30 minutes early, so we're still late, even though we're kind of
I
early.
know.
So we'll never really make up for the story. It is one of those things we kind of just have to kind of accept either and move on. But
No, no,
it
that's
is
on me though. Yeah, I'm not putting this on you. It's on me. So
no, 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 no. I mean, the reality is obviously you're having to deal with something. Obviously, you're away. You're on camera, looking really, really. You're actually okay. Juan is really multitasking with the open at this point because that's
I'm
how
just so
Juan
mad
hangs.
that everything seems to be working so much better. I'm in Firefox on the open. It just won't
Mhm.
rotate. So I
Okay.
turn if I turn the
Oh,
open sideways, it just stays in portrait mode. I other than that, this is working a lot better than I thought it would.
well, actually, you look pretty good, man. I'm actually considering the fact
Oh,
that we're
thanks.
using mobile device and hotel Wi-Fi. If anything, I'm pretty sure you
Mhm.
either maybe even better than the way I do. But um, it's been kind of a somewhat of a slow week kind of going on with some information. There's a little bit of hits and
Yeah,
pieces of different cool things kind of going on. Of course, one of the things that kind of really threw me out of the window is an update to our beloved Steam Deck that just apparently just got
yeah.
announced today. Like just
Big surprise.
right, like yeah, happy Thursday, everybody, kind of thing. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and we're like, we're OLED now. We're potentially OLED. I don't. Well, I mean, it is going to be OLED, yes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. A
Yeah.
couple of things kind of going on during the week as well. There's been a lot of teasers, a lot of information
Hmm.
leaking about the OnePlus 12 optics,
Yeah.
specifically the primary and the telephoto lens, getting us a little bit excited. This is not an announcement of the phone, but more so specifically talking Hasselblad and collaboration, and kind of getting us
Hmm.
excited for the OnePlus 12.
For sure.
Um, and then obviously, I don't know, you probably noticed that both Juan and I kind of dropped a referencing or relatively similar video topics, uh, referencing some really cool glasses. I was honestly, one, I was thinking about beginning the show, I was going to
Hmm.
actually connect the the display to the RayNeos so that I can
Yeah.
actually have you like straight in here, but then still have the camera on so that you guys could look at me as if I'm looking at you. But I'm ever so nicely just basically like, yeah, baby, the whole time. Just like,
Oh
yeah, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like Ray Bans all the way.
Well, do we
But
want to just jump in because we've
yeah, I think
been
the
both
RayNeos,
working with RayNeo, and I
yeah, yeah.
think it's kind of exciting to see some competition in the XR glasses space. We just recently saw the refresh on the X
X-Real
Real Air
Air.
2
Yeah,
and
there
also
apparently
the Air
Air,
Pro.
yeah, the Air is a very common
Popular.
title
Yeah.
in this space. I'll say this. If you're
Hmm.
referring to glasses, there are a lot of
It
air
wasn't
in the
the first Rokid, weren't they the Rokid Air, the
they were also
visors?
Rokid. Yeah, yeah. The first one
Yeah.
we did collaboration with Rokid was it was an Air series, and then they switched over to Max and different kind of nomenclature. But
Yeah.
so I haven't had a chance to play with the obviously X Real 2s or Air 2 or even the first one. We got
No,
a
I
chance to
haven't.
do a little bit.
I just reached out to Xreal's PR because they just did a massive update. This is like huge news for
Mhm.
Xreal, where the X-Real Beam can now sideload Android apps as part of, like, you don't have to root it or crack it or
Oh,
flash
just
a
so
ROM.
legit side loading. It allows you to install
And
unknown
so
sources.
this is still very early, so a lot of, there isn't a lot of compatibility for apps, but in the X-Real Beam interface, you can go to an individual app, fire it up. It might work, it might not. So this is not like the Roku Station, which is like a Google TV, it's a much more polished TV interface. This is X-Real trying to bring a phoneless device that can also
Mhm.
do some content streaming. They list compatibility with Netflix, but not at top quality because of the copy protection. But this is a big step for them and our buddies over at TCL RayNeo, the RayNeo team, delivering a refresh, simplified. This is like the most streamlined XR headset that I've been able to play with yet.
Well, so for me with the radios, I found that if they it's always funny with iterations with different devices, right? We
Yeah,
first saw so last year when we were sitting down and when we were working with not the Max, not the new generation. When we first
right.
started working with the first I guess the TCL glasses back then before they were becoming
Yeah.
radios.
Next word G.
Next word, yeah, and they gave us better sound. They gave us, different functional options that we got that we didn't
Hmm.
see on Roku and on the Nreal back in the day. Then Roku comes around, learns some of that, brings in the 120, brings in some optimizations, better stereo speakers, all of that. Xreal comes in, says, "Hey, hold my beer. Here's the Nreal, the
Right.
Beam," and then Roku says, "Hold, let me show you Android the way it's supposed to." So again,
Yeah.
always a competition, but although these are cheaper, I found that with the amount of features that we get in here, they're somewhat more competitive than what we had before when they
Hmm.
were under TCL only. And the one thing I really liked the most was the bone cracking function that you had on your X reel.
Oh,
That
yeah.
drove me crazy. Like
Yeah.
seriously. Some of the adjustments that you're able to do here on top of the well, let me get them to be of
Click
course now I
clack.
have
Click
to
clack.
clackety clackety clack. Ah, he's not breaking the glasses. No,
Yeesh.
it's like that's how I felt when you did it last time when I was there. Um, but those are some of the options that we get in here. The ability of adjusting the lenses to have a better
Hmm.
viewing experience at this price point with better cushions. I feel like they did an improvement on the cushions that we got last year, but they also kind of tailored it a little bit down. I feel like
Yeah.
some of the things that we got here are uh, they were done for cost efficiencies. I'll say maybe cost effectiveness were done there to kind of reduce the price a little bit. Although I
Oh,
don't really feel
definitely.
like they were that much
I,
cheaper than last year's, if I'm not
I'm
mistaken.
specifically calling out this as a streamlined headset. The Nextwear S had the magnetic cable attachment for USB-C, but
Exactly,
neither of us
proprietary
really
cable
liked
as well.
that. Yeah,
No.
exactly. The proprietary cable makes me anxious that if you lose that cable, you basically wrecked your glasses, and it
Mhm,
pops off really easily, which is fine. I do miss the magnetic visor though, because the
mhm. That
Nextwear
part,
S had the really nice looking sunglasses visor that could pop off if you wanted to go with a more open kind of style video look.
yeah.
I did not find that the new RayNeo Air 2 were as comfortable on my face
Okay.
as the Nextwear S.
Mhm,
I feel like if you have slightly broader features, like I got like a really fat nose,
mhm.
it was very difficult for me to line up a good angle, and it always felt like something was kind of pinching right at the bridge
Yeah.
of my nose. So this is the conversation, and Michael Protect actually asks a question that dovetails out of this. Folks who are used to wearing glasses understand the struggle of finding frames that fit your face, and I think now we're getting competition in the XR glasses space where
Yeah.
if you have different features, there are different headsets that will probably fit you more comfortably. And I think that's a benefit for consumers, even if that means we're not trying to convince everybody that this is a one size fits all solution.
Oh, no, no, absolutely. Even with the adjustments, you're right. I will say without having done any adjustments in it when I first got it out of the box, it didn't fit me very well.
Hmm.
It did
Yeah,
after getting the right adjustments on both the arms and on the nose pads, I was able to get it to
hmm,
fit the way I wanted it, and I appreciated I'll say that the initially I was a little bit skeptic of not having any diopter adjustment functionalities on
sure.
them, that it was going to be I'm like, "Oh my god, wait a minute. Hold on a second. What are we doing here?" but again, that those are some of the things I appreciate. It worked
Mhm.
quite well for me being farsighted. I was able to see things very clearly. It is the focal distance to it is set a little bit back because it's intended to try to mimic much more of
Yeah.
a bigger display. Um, but yeah, I can understand it. I'm with you. It took me some time to get it to work, and once I got it
So
right, it was fine.
I was able to adjust where I could get a good image out of them, but I
Hmm.
was never able to find as comfortable a fit
Okay.
as, especially as for me, the ones that have fit my face the best so far are the X Reels. The new Roku Max, the change that they made to the notepad helped a lot,
Yeah.
but the Nextwear S for me, for my features and the sort of the distance between my eyes and my ears, Nextwear S fit me much more readily. Like taking those out of the box versus taking the RayNeo out of the
Hmm.
box. The RayNeo needed a lot more adjusting. I do want to get this question here from Michael Peppertech. TK, since you wear glasses, how do you deal with all of these AR, VR glasses? Do you have to get prescription lenses for all of them, or is your prescription not that bad? And I feel like, again, because you do wear glasses, you can kind
Oh
of
no.
help comment on they're not focused in the way that you might think they would be. And I
Hmm.
think that makes a lot of difference for if you're nearsighted or farsighted.
So I mean, yeah, you're right. It depends on the glasses. I'll say that much. With the Roku, I had to do quite a bit of adjustments with the diopters.
Yeah.
That was it was a hard challenge for me, because so although most of these solutions offer the inserts, the ability of getting those prescription
Hmm.
glass lenses, and I think for the most part, it's a general one standard. It's just more of a kind of like a nose bridge kind of thing, like the grandpa glasses without the the actual frames. I don't know how else to describe them. That's how I
No,
always
but
saw them.
that's
Like
spot
that was
on. It's
grandpa. This is
exactly
like
that.
grandma and grandpa glasses. You put them on, no rim and anything, but they just stay on. Um, I haven't used those. I haven't had to buy those prescription options. I have been able to, through adjustment, get the Roku Max to work great. With the X Real and the TCL, as well as the RayNeos, I haven't had issues focusing. The Again, it
Hmm.
depends on how your vision is done.
Yeah.
Can see quite well distance, so for me, I can see distance is not as bad, but it's more about reading, computer, monitor. These are not considered like
Yeah.
far distance. And obviously smaller text, that's where I need to be able to focus, but in general, I can have this entire live stream as long as I don't have to read any comments. I can watch everything. I know exactly where things are.
Yeah.
um and with the radios, the again, because the focusing distance is a little bit further than
Yeah.
I would say than Roku. For
Roku's
me,
a
they
little
work fine.
closer for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think Roku knows, because you're gonna need to play with the diopters. It's just that for me with Roku, I ended up having to adjust the diopters every time, regardless of the
Hmm.
fact that even though I wore them, I put them in the box, I wore them again. Hey, adjustments needs to be done again, because I think it's more about how stressed your eyes are, because that also
Hmm.
kind of changes how well you're able to get the experience there. If you're trying to use them at the end of the day where your eyes are, especially for people that wear glasses, if our
Yeah.
eyes are tired, you may not get as good of an experience as maybe earlier in the day. So you have to kind of figure that part out as well.
Yeah.
Just
See,
how
I'm with
well.
you, only I'm just minorly farsighted. Like, I'm not to the point where I really need a prescription yet. And for me, it's the same. I feel like the X Reels, the image just feels like it's projected a little further out. And
Mhm.
then that's even more beautifully adjustable when you start playing with the X Reel Beam,
Yeah, of
because you
course.
can change the sort of perceived size of the screen, which changes your it's silly because you would think it just gets bigger or smaller, but they do seem to change your perception of the distance from your face. So it's not that it just got smaller, now it's taking up less of my field of view. It really does feel like we pushed the image further away,
Yeah.
and that helps me because, like I said, I'm just that tiny bit farsighted.
Yeah,
So
and
for
and you
people
do get
who,
extra. Mhm.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so one of the other things that I really liked on it is the fact that they added some more options or customization options in the settings within the app. The
Yeah,
app itself, when we first got the TCL glasses back last year, it was a first generation. It was an early release of the app. It was very limited in the
it
functionality.
was pretty
And
rough. Yeah.
it was a rough, yeah. It was intended to be a port over from the original TCL glasses that they released.
Yeah.
And what I saw with this one now is a much better, a smoother UI experience, better implementation of logging in, opening apps, opening local files. but also calibration, which I really liked about that. It's
Hmm.
like the ability, if you want to, if you feel like like the display wasn't bright enough, you could definitely get up there. It gets pretty bright
Yeah.
actually for something that's got that close to your face. But you're also able to adjust the colors, the tones. If you want it to be a little bit more warmer, cooler,
Hmm.
you can go in there and do that. And they
It
have
feels like more like a monitor, like all of
no, no,
the adjustments
absolutely.
that you would be able to make
It's
to a
like TCL
monitor.
finally bringing in, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
exactly.
like that TCL experience on your on your eyeballs, wherever you want to go with them. And um,
So for
I
Michael
just
Peppertech saying he's nearsighted, I would probably recommend starting because it
mhm,
depends on your prescription and it also
yeah,
depends on how asymmetrical your prescription might be. But I would probably recommend starting with something like the Rookid Max, seeing if
yeah,
those diopters are going to clear enough so that you can focus the image per eye. And that's the other thing that I think is going to be very difficult for these lighter weight XR glasses.
hmm,
It's something that I also noticed a little. You can kind of see it in my RayNeo video
yeah,
where one of the first flights I was taking, I took them. I still was adjusting the nose pads. So I've got one clip of me sitting in the Albuquerque airport, and the glasses are like slightly askew, and it was because I still hadn't gotten to that point where they were balanced from my face. If your face is slightly asymmetrical, like most faces are, that can also affect like because you think about how the displays are on one plane
yeah,
and they can't really move very easily. So like if you move them, you're moving the plane of both lenses. So if you shift one display to better fit one eye, like say your dominant eye, that puts
hmm,
the other display out of alignment with how you would normally look with as a primate with binocular vision. It's all these little things that I think we still need to figure out is the biology of how this stuff
yeah.
works.
It is, and I think that's the biggest. We're getting closer, but I feel
It,
like
some big steps. Yeah, I
oh
feel
no, no,
like this
absolutely.
last year were some really big steps for
From
sure.
what we got last year for TCL and what we got now, I feel like it's a massive step forward. Um, Again, minor, I feel like minor tailoring has been done here. Primarily for me was I think last year we got three pairs of nose pads. This year we only got
Hmm.
one pre-mounted.
No hard
There's no
case really bummed me out.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the soft fabric case to clean the
Mm-mm.
lenses and whatever. But
No, I don't
again,
like it. I don't like it, DK. I
well,
don't.
no, no. There's the experience of it makes sense, but it's not protective. It's a
Yeah.
because the again, and then also the other thing is we don't have the front panel glass is no longer removable. The nose
Yeah.
pads are not removable. A lot more permanent function or permanent fixtures that
Mm,
used to be replaceable, so that in case you need better. I think last year they had three different materials they were using for the nose pads. And I think they probably
hmm.
settled on the ones that maybe most people like the most, or I guess. But
Yeah.
I wanted a solution to be more of all blacked out. So this is where it kind of gets for me. I wanted to have the option to either a turn everything off and be able to get that beautiful deep colors and get the colors that you'd expect out of this when you're on a plane or say in an environment like this where there's somewhat of light leakage on the side.
Yeah.
Oh, and then on the other side, like we talked before, but I want to be able to get that where I want to be able to see through more clearly and not have the bottom panels just kind of sitting there. Maybe give us at least the option of having this removed and maybe get a secondary thing or maybe even a cover that goes over it. So that would have been my if I had to nitpick about the overall experience. Um, I think there's some decent improvements over last year. The price point is still pretty competitive if you think about it, and they
Yeah.
had an early bird.
I had someone who was like, "Oh, they're not even that cheap now that the early bird isn't there." And you're like, if you're comparing it against a headset that was released a year ago, you have to understand that older products go on sale and newer products start out a little more expensive. But sub $400 is pretty competitive against, say, a really good travel OLED.
Mhm.
So
And
I'm not feeling too bad. I feel like this is the right time for people to give these a try. Whether or not you get one of these, use it, and decide you're going to marry it, that may not happen. But I think these
yeah,
are all in really good shape to take on test drive now.
yeah, and then of course the last thing I also appreciate about them is they brought in 120 hertz refresh rate, which is something that we didn't
Yeah,
have last year. Last year was pretty much 60. So depending on how you're playing and the solutions that you're using, I don't know if I didn't get a chance to see if you did, but I didn't get the new that the Ray dock that they're basically their Nintendo
Yeah, they
64 dock
didn't
thing
send
that
me one either, and I didn't request one because I'm not rocking a Switch right now.
yeah, I ended up having to get I picked up an OLED Switch, which is a subject for a different conversation because apparently one of our favorite things got an OLED upgrade, which makes no sense to me now, but we'll talk about that.
I've been recommending the glasses because if you're Steam Deck players like we are, you've
Yep.
got those LCD displays on the Steam Deck, and you can switch to portable
Well,
face-mounted OLEDs. But now you might not have to make that choice. Now, if you want OLED, apparently that's where Steam Deck is going.
well, I mean, so it seemed like obviously, okay, so before we jump off and leave the radios, I mean, both of us have sent
I
videos.
had a segue. I never
No, no,
have
you did, you did, and
segue.
I do want to make it a great segue because we're gonna nail that to the ground. Do me a favor, if you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, please check out both. There's a video on my side and
Yeah.
one on Juan's side as well. And I think the solutions that we're getting here with the radios are great solutions if you're looking for this type of mounted display on your face for travel, for content consumption. I was editing videos with it. Actually, it's one of the more functional options I've gotten to is editing videos on
Yeah.
using these glass. And again, seriously, I would have totally done it had it if it wasn't going to be weird me keep looking through the glasses when you guys are like here and I'm like talking there. But either way, segueing over to this beautiful OLED conversation,
Hmm.
like, okay, so
Are you going to get one? Are you going to flip your Steam Deck and get
so
a
I'm
Steam Deck
debating if
OLED?
I should flip the Steam Deck or should I buy the part? Because in theory, I should be able to upgrade it
So, from what I understand,
with the
there will
exception of the new
probably be
APU.
a couple smaller other architectural differences where, as it launches, it might not be directly a one-to-one transfer. And then
Okay.
also, we have to wait for those parts to hit the market. So the
Oh no,
repair
no,
parts will come a little
absolutely. Hold on,
longer
yeah.
after
As
being sold.
you're talking, I'm gonna bring it up on my side. Yeah, I mean, I'll be
But
very frank.
Fat Pros,
I
our
am
buddy
excited.
Andrew, is the one who is like sending me link after link about, and there's another video about it, and it's coming out, and I might need to
No,
pull the SSD out of my current Steam Deck and put it in a new Steam Deck with OLED.
no, no, no.
And
I, dude,
Two Bones was saying like he was sharing those links too. I mean, there's definitely interest in this. I think it's the right play to kind of piggyback on Nintendo's launch strategy.
so okay. So here we are with the amazing Steam Deck. Your game, a whole new light. Steam Deck OLED starts at 549. Wish list on Steam. Let's click that there. And I'm not sure why I just clicked it here. Okay, I think this is this. Okay, so that's the page right there. So it essentially is. I mean, okay, from this angle, it doesn't really look that different. It looks pretty much the same with the exception of the
Yeah.
LEDs or the OLEDs kind of going on. There is obviously a new price drop for the 256 model with the NVMe SSD. It's down to 399
Hmm.
and ships within 1 or 2
Correct.
weeks.
That's
It's
the
a
smart play.
So
Yeah.
7-inch diagonal display size. We're going to a 7.4-inch diagonal display size with a 7 nanometer APU jumping down to the 6 nanometer APU, which is going to also kind of contribute to the power benefit that we're getting here
Yeah.
because essentially it's supposed to last longer. Wi-Fi 6E over Wi-Fi 5. I'm happy with that. That's actually a good upgrade. I like that. I like that functionality.
And you
A
know what's
bigger
also really
battery.
good about Wi-Fi 6E is that that's going to be even better for doing Steam Link. So also
Oh, that's
using
right.
your
Yeah, yeah,
Steam
yeah. That's
Deck
right.
to play
The
remote is going
frequency
to get even
exactly.
better.
No,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. 50 watt hour battery, so 3 to 12 hours of gameplay. Obviously, that coupled with the OLED panel and the new 6 nanometer APU, that's I think how they're factoring in the better battery life because it's the increase wasn't as
Hmm.
dramatic if you think about it from 40 to 50. And of course, 45 watt, that's pretty much the same, but it's 2.5-meter cable, nice, a little bit longer.
Hmm.
Carrying case that comes with it, which is what we had before, and then of course, a Steam profile bundle, Steam, not Stream profile bundle in there. The one thing I noticed on the panel itself, it didn't really go up that much in resolution. We're still talking, is it
Yeah.
720p? No,
Yeah. Again,
so
I mean, this is the thing. I want to give Valve a little credit here.
at 90 hertz, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
This isn't Steam Deck 2,
No,
Electric Boogaloo.
yeah, exactly.
They I feel like a lot of companies would have done what Steam did or Valve did and said, "Hey, we're not looking to make you feel like the Steam Deck that we finally just started shipping is now obsolete. So what we're looking at is refinement. And they said first and foremost, one of the things that we really want to tackle is battery life. And that
Hmm.
seems to be exactly what they're addressing here. It doesn't look to me like this is going to be a radical improvement in the processing power when you're really trying to drive this thing on really heavy, beefy, graphics intense AAA titles. It should do that better.
Hmm.
But the major difference here is, can we extend the battery life at the performance tier we were at before? And think about how many times we said that about phone SoCs. I don't need you to give me crazy processing power above the Snapdragon 865. Give me Snapdragon 865 performance with 3 generations of power efficiency improvements, and I think people would be a lot happier. So I'm actually, as someone who owns like the launch week Steam Deck that even
Yeah,
has
you
the
got
noisier
yours
fan,
way earlier than me. I mean, I waited almost what, a year, and
I
I'm.
might not jump on this OLED just because Steam Deck has kind of fit into my short burst of gaming activity flow.
Mhm.
And if I don't get, 50% better battery life, that's actually not a deal breaker for me because I very, very rarely get to just sit and play to a point where my Steam Deck battery is exhausted. For me, it would literally just be the optical quality improvements and the contrast and the sort of saturation of going with an OLED display. And I can maybe hold off on that for a little while yet.
Yeah, I'm probably with you on that boat with the, like, I mean, it's kind of like talking about, how the M1, M2, and M3 Max coming up as
Yeah.
far as, upgrades. Do you really need to upgrade? That's the question. Is the
Well,
upgrade that big of a
obviously, the
difference?
M3 is out now, so the M2 is garbage. So you should throw away all the M2s and give Apple all your money for an M3.
Hand over fist. No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I wish I just wish my pockets were deep enough. I mean, I won't lie on the part that I spent, although I bought mine used, I spent a pretty penny on a used one, and it works, and it still works very
Sure.
nice. The only pain that I have with the Mac M1 Max that I have is the fact that I only have 1 TB of storage, but I've already kind of circumvented that with an external SSD. So yeah, going back into the Steam Deck conversation, I feel like this is one of those times where I would feel maybe a little bit more comfortable saying, maybe I'll wait and see if there is a way to, maybe if they will make a 7-inch version of the OLED panel to upgrade the original Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Because you're right, there's a form factor difference between the two. They're not the same
It's
size.
just different enough. Yeah.
It's
And so
exactly
Andrew
like.
was also saying, and I think I've seen this mentioned also, that some of these other upgrading component swaps where people were putting in Hall effect sticks and triggers in the Steam Deck, that those probably won't be compatible with this until those parts are fit specifically for this refresh. So on the one hand, it's not quite the unified hardware platform that I was hoping it would be,
Mhm.
but this is exactly the kind of refinement that I would want to see. We're not trying to see. I mean, like this is one of my concerns when we start looking at things like the Asus, the
Oh,
ROG Ally,
uh,
where
RG
it
Ally, yeah.
it reaches performance. It's at its most expensive configuration. It reaches a performance tier that I don't believe Asus was properly prepared for, and it cooked SD cards. Those are those little things. The boutique solution, a little handheld mini PC that's good for gaming. It's really difficult to get a handle on what might those issues be, and unfortunately, you don't want to be learning that lesson after you're shipping products to consumers. So here, now we're getting the iteration. The Steam Deck that I have is the older version of the current model of Steam Deck. If you were to buy the same style of Steam Deck I have, it's already
Mhm.
a more refined product than
Yeah,
what I
that's true.
bought. And
Exactly.
now we're getting just like the point one update where I'm not going to feel sad. My games are still going to play almost as good as this newer revision, but they're putting their money exactly where they said they would. They're focusing on exactly the aspects they said they would improve.
And I agree. I think the aesthetic differences that we see here, again, it's that nice little see-through kind of colorway. I mean, that's the limited edition one. Sorry. So there is a limited edition for $640 that's going to be coming out. Or maybe is that yeah, that is the limited edition, I think. No, or maybe not. Maybe
Yeah,
there is a different version, because they're showing us here this limited edition. It says includes limited edition Steam Deck OLED, different colorway with the 1 TB Steam Deck, quantities are limited and are only available in the United States and the Canada, the
Mhm.
upper land of Canada. But there is obviously the 1 terabyte version here as well that has essentially the exclusive startup movie, exclusive virtual
Yeah.
keyboard theme, and what else is it? It looks like I had three more things in the other one, but I can't figure out where the other one. 45, 600, blah, 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 blah. Oh, the no, I have no idea. Maybe they increased the size of the font. Oh, carrying case with removable liner. Sorry, my mistake. That's what it is.
Ooh,
With removable liner,
très chic.
Absolutely, dude. Because you know what I did when I first got mine, right? I got a case from somebody else because that's I know I say okay. So I'll say this: my Steam Deck still runs quite well. The
Mhm.
CPU doesn't seem to be affected. I realize that the APU got an improvement on here, but it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't feel like this is the 2 series. This is more of a
No.
let's just make an OLED version and make a minor, obviously, I'm assuming part spinning refresh due to the fact that the older parts are not that much probably available as much, and they want to basically cycle through
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and go to the
and
next
you've gotta
variant.
move on when
No, no,
you're starting
absolutely.
to change those little chiplets and stuff. Yeah,
I'll wait.
again, but oh, what's that?
No, no, I'm saying I'll probably wait. I'll wait and see. And I'm not gonna lie that I've been eyeing the Legion, the Lenovo Legion Go, a little bit too much. Uh, yeah.
It's
Although
okay. It
it's
happens. It
hard to get.
happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
And we had a whole conversation here between two phones and skulls talking about like Odin's versus the Razer Edge, which I thought it was kind of funny. Razer Edge is now finally available on Amazon.
Hmm.
I think that happened like 2 weeks ago.
As on
So if you
Wi-Fi.
were
Yeah.
looking at a more Androidy version of this concept with the 120 hertz OLED on it,
Oh, yeah, well, that was one of the
you
benefits. Yeah, with
could
the
take a look at
TGX. Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with Qualcomm
because
Snapdragon.
yeah, with something akin to an 888, but with active cooling, where you can easily bump that 888 a performance tier above the generation of the hardware that is. Uh, so Farhan was asking whether or not we think it might be worth waiting for a Steam Deck 2. So if the Steam Deck has a 90 hertz screen, should I wait for Steam Deck 2? I'm very optimistic that it will have 120 hertz screen.
Hmm.
I don't know of a lot of games that will push beyond 60 frames per second on these little APUs just yet. So, like, I just finished up a review on that little Whizbox G, that gaming PC that was showing off a couple weeks
Oh yeah,
back,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know you earlier
and
that week. Yeah.
it's an AMD monster. It's got that Radeon 680M. I mean, it's taking some really good laptop guts and putting them in a well cooled desktop enclosure. Um, Not a lot of games are pushing beyond 60 FPS on that, and that is an order of magnitude more powerful than what's going to go with Steam Deck. I mean, like probably twice the power draw at max load. So I wouldn't be too anxious about 120 hertz because really the only thing that I think is going to draw at 120 hertz is the UI, and I don't care that much
No,
on a
we don't. You don't
gaming
spend enough
portable like
time with
that.
the UI thinking like, well, I want to be able to scroll through my library much faster. I want it to, I wanted that buttery smooth,
These menus, I can see the frames.
We know the struggle, man. We know your struggle, and we understand and we feel with you, man. It's good. I understand. You need that 120 goodness. Although if you can kind of if you think about it, 50% improvement over from 60 to 90 is quite more noticeable than going from 90 to 120. So from
Yeah.
I know, I mean, I don't want to discount that 90 is obviously maybe not the best solution. It still is
No,
decent
no. So
considering.
again, something like that is good, and where you might see it would be on maybe a game like Dead Cells, and maybe
Okay, I was gonna say
a
Undead
game like
Horde,
Dead
but yeah,
Cells.
sure, that sells.
Um, Undead Horde is
If they,
weird
it depends on what you're
because I
playing at.
think
Yeah.
well, no, but I was gonna say is on a Steam Deck. On a
Oh yeah.
Steam Deck, I don't know that Undead Horde can really can really sustain above 60. Unless you really kick down quality settings, which I mean the game is already so blocky, you wouldn't want to play it lower. I don't believe end runs in Vampire Survivors are
Hmm.
probably going to pin 90 once you get a whole bunch of enemies on screen for your 28th and 29th minutes. I genuinely don't know of many games on my seat. So many of my games that I'm playing on my Steam Deck, I'm actually looking at other performance trade-offs. Like if it's a game like Hellblade, I'm
Oh,
looking
okay.
at FSR to take that down to 30 frames per second so that I can have a reasonable resolution and the game doesn't look like garbage.
Hmm.
Um, it, I'm looking at other games where maybe I need to take the frame rate down and pin the screen refresh and the frame rate down to 45 frames per second. So a 90 hertz screen doesn't help me if I'm playing a game that is so graphically demanding that I can't even sustain 60 FPS. So it's things
And
that like you want to
yeah.
do the shopping for you, and that all comes down to what kinds of games you play. If you're telling me you play Tetris and Baba is you,
Hmm.
then you could bump that up 90 hertz and it's going to look real pretty playing little indie games in Tetris. And that's great. You'll do it and you'll really enjoy it. But I'm not sure that's what a lot of people go into when they say, I need a 120 hertz screen. They want to play a game above 60 FPS. And a lot of those games where you're really going to see the visual benefit of that, probably not the games that you're going to try and tax a Steam Deck with, maybe.
It's going to be one of those situations where you're right. The hardware may be ahead of where we need it. The concern is, can we push the system, can we push the resources to give us the experience that we want, a smooth game at above 60 frames per second. But you're right. No, I mean, my son and I mean, he plays Apex Legends on 60 frames per second. I
Mm-hmm.
would imagine a game like that would definitely benefit from it running higher, but I don't know if the Steam Deck would be it, if the game
I
would
don't know.
be
Well,
playable as well without dropping
and
the
sustain it.
resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, you could also tank the quality, which is typically what we get with mobile games. To increase the frame
Yeah.
rate, you lose the quality because you get more. The system doesn't have to render as much, right? Like you shift the load over from one side to the other. Um, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So there are some videos, as you mentioned, Fat Produce Andrew's been dropping some videos for you,
Mm-hmm.
talking about what we're getting with the new system. I hope it is something that a lot of us will maybe see, and maybe it does become a conversation later. I think the initial massive demand for Steam Deck was because of where Steam Deck was at the time. It was ahead of the curve. It was showing us something that nobody
Well,
else was
it
willing to
set a
do.
standard, and it felt
Yeah.
like a standard. It didn't
If
feel like just a one-off experiment from a boutique company that was then going to make a completely different handheld 4 months later. It is now a proper baseline. And to me, this is the minimum experience we should expect from a PC gaming portable. There are going to be plenty of opportunities to spend more and get something more powerful, to spend more,
Mhm.
get something with other hardware configurations and features. But right now, you can't drop me below a Steam Deck. And you need to give me a price to performance somewhere
Yep.
around the Steam Deck for those portables to make sense. Valve has set a baseline. And I think that's what's really exciting. Now we can count on these games play well. This thing is fun. You got this kind of software support, and it obviously worked for Valve because I don't know about you, but just getting the Steam Deck kind of reignited the fun that I used to have with PC gaming, and I've spent a lot more on games since getting the Steam Deck. So I
Oh,
think it's working.
absolutely. I ended up buying God of War, the remastered edition,
Yep.
purely just to be able to play it again on mobile.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah.
What's it called? Mortal Kombat for me on it. Absolutely.
Hmm.
It.
And tons of little indie games. I mean,
Oh, no,
again, just
absolutely
for me,
massive.
the pick up,
Absolutely.
put down, that
Well,
kind of
well worth
experience is
getting the
so.
larger SSD on that as opposed to the
Oh yeah.
original. What we got with the original, I think was it the EMMC, but the base model was EMMC, which was like a like really, yeah, really okay. No, no, absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing about it is it took away the constraints of needing a laptop for gaming and having a portable solution like a tablet, but it gives you the controls, it gives you the library access, it gives you just everything that you want. And then if you want to connect it to a bigger display, dock it and then use it on the
Yeah.
display. That was the other solution. Video out was a beautiful thing. And I mean,
Hmm.
we're attesting the fact that it's something that we enjoy quite a bit with glasses. So I hope that we see more. Maybe I'm hoping that we see the Steam Deck 2 a lot sooner. Although whomever decides to pick up the Steam Deck at this time or in the future, when the OLED is becoming more of the standard, I'm pretty sure they're going to enjoy it, and I'm pretty sure they're going to
Yeah.
be. Very happy to see a lot of their titles in their Steam library supported, because
Well,
as time goes on, support gets better and better.
and this is just going to refine what the standard is. The standard should grow over time and evolve over time. And now we've got conversations about sub $600
Yep.
mini portable handheld PCs that incorporate things like better power management and OLED displays. And
Hmm.
it's going to be a lot more difficult for another company to come out and say, hey, we've got this and it's 15% more powerful, but you can only play for 2.5 hours and it's got an LCD. Like that's now not going to we're not going to be as charitable to a company, especially when we're not as confident that they're going to be supporting the device for as long, offering all the same repair parts. There's not going to be the same community making
Yeah.
accessories for them. That all kind of weighs on the consumer how they make purchasing decision.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's a big part of how at least we look at it, when we're buying any product. I mean, even for me, I didn't jump in on purchasing my current car, the EV that I have, before many generations of improvements, update, infrastructure. There's a
Hmm.
lot more things that goes into a conversation whenever you're buying a piece of tech. What network you're going to be using it. Is it going to work in the area that you're going to be working in?
Hmm.
Um,
But I
so
mean,
it's
just putting the numbers out there. Michael Corcoran is like, that's pretty spot on. $399 for 256 gig of storage. I mean, that's like Meta Quest territory for a standalone VR headset. This is a proper game console that happens to be almost Nintendo portable, but it
yeah.
plays your PC games. And that's the same price as getting a Razer Edge Wi-Fi edition. That's an incredible
Oh, and you can run
cost.
it like a desktop PC. That was the other thing that you gotta realize. If
Yeah,
you
go
dock it
straight to
and you boot
Linux.
it up into
Correct.
Linux, yeah, you're running it like a laptop. Connected Bluetooth
So
keyboard
as
and
much as I
mouse.
really dig that little Razer Edge, that is a much more difficult price fight now for Razer in this space. You have to get granularly specific about what kinds of features might appeal to an individual. As a broad recommendation for PC gaming nerds, it's much harder to pull a PC gaming nerd over and considering Android as a solution for gaming. Trust me, I've tried. So this is now a visceral cost comparison against a lot of players out there. Even if it doesn't win all the Geekbench scores, it's doing some things that are very impressive at a price that is almost that family casual entertainment purchase. That it's iPad territory, it's console territory. It's this is a perfect gateway drug to get people into PC gaming, where then you can also sell them on the idea of longevity and compatibility, where I can
Yeah.
still install games that I bought years ago on any new piece of hardware that I get to play games on.
Yeah, it rejuvenates your library. Absolutely. You can go through and see exactly some of those games that you haven't played, play it again, and then just get to enjoy them over and over.
Yeah.
One of the things I probably will say is we need to start seeing when things are available. Obviously, the Steam Deck is not going to be available till the 16th. That's what, next Wednesday, Thursday next week.
Hmm.
Obviously, they're gearing for the holidays. They want people to try to jump on it before. They're probably going to be a mad dash for it. So if you're interested, definitely mark that date on the calendar. Make sure your Steam account is in good standing. You've purchased
Yeah.
things before. All of the pain and headaches that Juan had to go through to buy his first Steam Deck. We need to learn our lessons from his
But
challenges.
I don't believe the early reaction is going to be as brutal as mine
No,
was,
no, no,
where
no,
the Steam
absolutely.
servers were melting down so bad they couldn't verify that I had an account for years, and
Yeah.
I've been buying games on Steam for years before trying to put in that pre-order, and I ended up getting in the day after. I think it's going to be that bad,
Yeah,
but
but
I
that
would
day
still
after
expect
pushed you out like
enough.
3 months later, remember? Or
No,
something like that.
it was like, but
Even that day after.
so it was all the delays, and thankfully enough people seemed to drop their pre-orders that my order didn't ship super late compared to people that were like minute one pre-order people. I don't
Yeah,
believe this refresh
pre-crash.
is going to be as aggressive, but I would still expect servers working a little harder than usual when the
Yeah.
pre-order page was live.
I'm also imagining that the batch or the quantities are not going to be as I, You're right. We'll
Oh,
have to
actually,
see. We'll
so that produce also brings up another good point.
yeah.
Keep an eye on the used market. That produce, as I'm already seeing a ton of LCD Steam Decks on Floppa in anticipation for the OLED. If we know a 256 gig OLED is going to be coming in $399, people aren't going to be selling their LCD 256 for $549. That's not going to be a thing anymore. So you might be able to score a pretty good deal. And let's say you even get the 64 gig eMMC LCD Steam Deck. It's
Mhm.
not that hard to pop in a
Swap.
larger SSD. And if you get a good sale on that and then buy 512 or a 1 terabyte SSD, you can have yourself a phenomenal portable PC console.
Yep.
And it might be the same price or cheaper than the base model OLED. This is going to be some fun stuff to shop once we start
Yep.
seeing how people start trying to offload the older LCD models.
Yeah, no, no, and I think that's the biggest thing for me is where I was looking at it as, will I, or at least from what I've seen, will I get that much more of an enjoyable experience and longer gameplay? I feel like this is minor revision, and again, we
Yeah,
we want to be able to see some. I want to say at least horsepower improvement overall. Like, don't get me wrong, the battery life
yeah,
is important for me on the Steam Deck, but like what we
but
saw last time
I'm
when we were talking about RoboCop,
yeah,
we're starting to see some titles that may start push the limit. And I'll say
oh,
that
totally
God of
could.
War, although runs, it is not 100% smooth all the time. I mean, I still appreciate the fact that it runs and it's playable, but there
Mhm.
are some areas where there's some choppiness that you could see where the system is really being pushed. Um,
Yeah,
but the short end of the story, obviously, is we'll have to see. Congrats to Valve, the ability of releasing an update, and I'm happy that they're supporting the ecosystem and not leaving it to
oh,
the one
here's
release.
here's
Yeah.
my prediction for my family. I will probably not jump on OLED Steam Deck this year.
Hmm.
I'll try to wait for a proper Steam Deck 2, which could be like announced 2024 for a 2025 release. I mean, I'm expecting Steam Deck 2, like the actual successor Steam Deck, not a revision, to be another year or two away now that they're releasing this OLED. But if I do eventually cave and get the OLED, I still probably won't sell the LCD because I think Marie will just steal it to be her personal Tetris machine. And
I'm feeling you're forgetting a very important player in the game, my friend, that is slowly but surely creeping up and getting bigger and bigger. And obviously,
yeah.
I think you may have somebody else stealing it. It may not even
So
make it.
you're not wrong, but Lex has already gotten into the habit of stealing my Razor Edge because it fits her hands better. So I don't get a game on
I'm
the
not going to
Razor
say
Edge very
conniving.
much.
I'm going to say congratulations, achievement. Right on.
Do you feel like I've done something successful as a parent? She likes to play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Vampire Survivors.
Like what?
Um,
Yeah.
but that could be the split,
Okay.
especially over the next year. I don't think that's going to change for Lex. Like she's grown like a weed, but she's
Oh
she's
no, absolutely.
8. But when she picks up the Razor Edge, it is like sculpted for her hands. It's like perfect.
Hmm.
But Marie has occasionally been stealing my Steam Deck. It's like, oh well, let me just kind of play a little Puyo Puyo Tetris or a little Tetris Effect, and
I like
every
it.
now and then, I'll get her set up. She doesn't really know how to get through my terrible installation of some of my emulators, but she loves picking up like classic Nintendo games. Like the original Super Mario Brothers is like her comfort
Yeah.
game, right? It takes her back to her childhood, and that's the kind of stuff that she loves doing on Steam Deck. That would be her machine, and then maybe Daddy could get it. Great.
Well, I was running more. Yeah, I ran more emulators on the Razer Edge a little bit more because I found it a little bit
Yeah.
easier with Android and so on. But I think no. At the end of the day, the reality is either solutions are going to be fine. We have other options on the market, and I think it was again
Mhm.
at the time where Steam Deck came out, it was very revolutionary. It was something that did not exist. There was a lot of questions.
Well, we've
Um,
we've never had a standard like this in PC gaming. One
yeah,
one power to performance level that we all sort of agreed on was the acceptable place to start for
yeah,
PC gaming. And now I feel like we've got a console style of conversation here. and that helps just set the stage. If someone wants to go even more powerful, we could look at some crazy gaming laptops. Someone wants to go more with something more boutique with very specifically chosen components in a handheld. You've got Asus and you've got Lenovo. You've got all these other like RayNeo and what's the other company that's making?
So there's Lenovo, there's Asus, there's IM. Oh, you're talking about the emulator-based gaming
Oh
systems.
no, but I mean like for little mini hardcore PCs, but they're expensive. Like
Mhm.
they're more expensive than SteamDeck because that company can't make them at scale. So
Yeah.
you've got other options you can build on top of, but I don't think anything really kind of lands the conversation. I mean, sorry, I don't think anything really starts the conversation for PC gamers like Steam Deck has. And so
Yeah.
that's where the longevity of this, I think, is going to do really well.
No, and I think this is the biggest thing. I think that's a good point for us to be able to kind of maybe jump off as well to
For
start
sure.
talking about a little bit more, not necessarily like a vaporware, but more early looks and early conversations a little bit going on with. I guess this is a little bit weird. Like typically we don't hear about a device's optics this publicly before the actual
Yeah,
device is announced. Although,
for sure.
I mean, we kind of have a good idea of what the device is going to be, powered by, and display tech, and
Hmm.
the operating system, so on, all of that good stuff. But I want to specifically, let me go ahead and share this real quick on our Twitter side, if I can remember how to share again. Share screen, X, and actually we're right
Come
here. Okay.
on, you can do it. I believe in you.
I know. I got to learn how to do all of these things again. So let me see here. Can I get this thing? Of course we can't. I can't pinch and zoom. I forgot. I saw the tweet where somebody actually had the announcement, the optics. Okay, so it's all in Chinese. Sorry, it is all in Chinese. But I saw somewhere, I can't figure, because I was trying to, as you were talking before, trying to bring in.
Hmm.
Um, oh, here it is. This one. Okay, so because this, I remember it also filled up the display. That was the, the reason why I liked it. So this was the announcement, the infographic that they put out at the end, and then of course Google Lens Magic. We're looking into some of the optic information that we're talking about here. Essentially, is obviously collaboration with with Hasselblad. It's going to be still
Hmm.
running, the OnePlus 12. We're talking about the new primary sensor. Help me. How do we say this correctly? I haven't been able to basically the new Sony. Is it lit?
I've been
Is it
saying light. Yeah.
Light 808? Lit or light?
So I've been saying like a light. I've been saying Lydia, and I'm pretty sure I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, but the
So
thing is, I've heard it both. I've heard it said Lydia, and some
I've heard
people
it
have been
both
calling it.
ways.
Yeah, either way. Um, so okay, so what I'll probably say is this, um, and this is just purely on my side, and I'm hoping somebody at some point, a company will correct me and maybe prove me wrong a little
Hmm.
bit more. Last year with the 899, I think it's the 899, right? The 1 inch sensor from, or no, the 909.
99.
Yeah. Sony released in my opinion, I feel like with these three implementations that we got, a beautiful sensor that has a lot of power to give, a lot of light to absorb, the bokeh, the
Hmm.
effect of what we're able to get there. I've seen very few devices that come close to mimicking that. This
Hmm.
new sensor from Sony is seemingly being adopted by multiple companies. And
Yeah.
we'll get a chance to look at some of those images. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because Xiaomi also is using the same sensor. It's not,
Yeah.
that,
14
obviously,
Pro. I
yeah,
believe that is a variation on this technology that's in the new iPhone, which has helped the iPhone deliver a much more competitive camera on the 15 Pro this year.
and I hope again. I hope this is again going to be. I mean, I'll say this about from the few images that I've seen, or the few image samples that I've seen from our buddy Ben. He's been very impressed with it. He's been comparing it to the
Yeah.
13 Pro, and it kind
Well,
of goes a little
and
bit
we've
back and
been
forth.
playing with the OnePlus Open using a very similar stack sensor technology that is.
Absolutely, and I think that's the biggest thing for me. Is more. We're seeing more shift of companies moving towards this. There's a good chance that the Find X7 Pro, next year's generation of the Find X, may not
Hmm.
have the 1 inch sensor anymore, and maybe going towards
Yeah.
something similar to what we get here. The
You save a
12,
lot of space. It is a
yeah,
very difficult engineering challenge to deliver a 1 inch type sensor and not have a significant camera bulge. I don't know. Did you see I think we talked about it, but there was the concept for the Nubia that
Mhm.
had a 1-inch type sensor with a 35 millimeter equivalent lens. And
Oh,
you
wow.
had basically like a hockey puck sticking out the back of that phone to allow for the depth on that sensor. So what I'm hoping we'll see, I believe these claims where companies are saying, "Hey, this sensor gives us even more light than going with a
Yeah.
1-inch type sensor, but we're not getting the same optical characteristics, the same depth of field."
No.
So I'm hoping that we'll see a Sony out next year, like a Pro I2 or a Pro II or something like that, and I'm hoping we'll see a Xiaomi 14 Ultra that is
Yeah.
using the new stacked, because it's even bigger than a 1-inch type sensor. So Sony makes this,
Mhm.
exists. It's a 0.98. It's a 1 over point. Instead of
98.
a 1 over
Wow.
1, it's a 1 over 0.98 inch type sensor. So it's ever so slightly larger than a 1-inch type sensor on a 4:3 aspect ratio. If that goes into a Xiaomi 14 Ultra, we get the optical characteristics, we get the variable aperture, and then we get that stacked light acquisition. That's going to be the best camera phone of 2024.
Here, here. I appreciate the predictions, and we'll hold you definitely to those words once the 14 Ultra is announced.
But
We're
so that's exciting though, is that we're seeing the trend. Huawei, I think, kicked this off with a much more variable aperture. Sony gave us two stage. Xiaomi gave us two stage. Now
Yeah.
Xiaomi is giving us a variable stage aperture. I need to see Vivo. Vivo is the company that I really hope that they will deliver that photography focus, and then Oppo can go back to maybe being a little wackier with some of their experiments.
Yeah, I want to see more. You're right. I think that's the weird thing about it this year. We've seen them do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think the Find X6 Pro. Or not think. I know the Find X6 Pro is one of my favorite devices up to this date. Still, I like the cameras. I like the optics, and I like especially the 3x telephoto lens is one of my favorites. Like
Yeah,
seriously, bar none,
it's
one of
real
my
good.
favorite telephotos on the market. And the 13 Ultra is primarily going to be one of the other right next to that is one of my favorite devices, and it is purely because of what that sensor can do and the way it's not just the like acquisition, but it's just the optics, the benefits of just getting that type of an optic in a device. I don't mind
Hmm.
the bulkiness on the back because you're buying this as a camera driven
Yeah.
device. You don't stumble on into a 13 Ultra or Find X6 Pro, and I feel like a lot of people like to compare them as if there's just like a one sauce recipe kind of thing for
If
everybody, and it isn't.
if it's just light, then
Yeah.
you're right. Then sure, you can soak up just as much light with a smaller surface area. But when you start changing the sensor size, you change the lens characteristics. And to me, this is the difference between going with a newer, more expensive, uh, more advanced APS-C camera versus
Oh,
last year's full frame.
yeah.
And there are
No,
going to
no,
be plenty of people who want the focal lengths, the image not image quality in terms of does it look better, but image qualities. How you play with light, how you play with depth field, how you play with exposure. An older full frame camera will produce images that a newer APS-C camera they won't they won't be the same.
no,
So
I'm with
that
you.
to me is a part of this like comparison and conversation where yes, we have a newer technology that is arriving at a smaller image sensor. It's on the back of this phone that I'm using to stream right now, and it's one of the most fun cameras to shoot on of the year. Even more
Hmm.
surprising that it's on a foldable. And yet, when I really, really want to dig into some photography, I reach for a Vivo or I reach for a Xiaomi because I really like what that one sensor produces when we're really looking at the photographic aspects of an image.
And speaking of Vivo and Xiaomi and so on, and um, surprisingly, somehow I got an email from I guess Gistop, and they're starting to pre-order the iQOO. Like we're already at the iQOO
Yeah,
12 level, man. I'm like,
yeah.
dang it! Like,
But I
Merry
feel like
Christmas.
it's really going to be just, I will be very surprised if there's much delineation next year because
Hmm.
I feel like it's going to be a similar strategy that we had in 2023 where the iQOO 11 and the OnePlus 11 were more alike than they
More like
were
cousins,
different.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically just do you want Fun Touch, or do you want Color OS?
Oxygen OS. It is fun though. No, it's kidding. No, I'm with you. One of the other things that they also kind of tease us as well is a new telephoto lens, and then
Yeah.
we're seeing some of the optics in here. They're using obviously the side mount, the side type of sensor where the light kind of bends, goes in. You're getting the separation
Hmm.
between, so you can get better optical, representation. And then of course the Pro XDR photon matrix technology, some of the new collaborations as well. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the OnePlus 12 is supposed to be showcasing the new Oppo slash Hasselblad new collaboration, their new image stack, or let me double check real quick. I forgot
Yeah.
the name that they actually listed it. But here,
Yeah.
so here's some camera samples. So for everybody kind of enjoying, apparently they were in Paris.
You're looking at like a social media compressed
Just
image of
oh no,
a
no,
web
absolutely.
compressed
But
image
the
of,
fun part about it is this was done during Oppo's photography event in Paris.
yeah.
So Oppo currently was running its own little show kind of going on. But what I found, what I really kind of struck me. Okay, so here, don't get me wrong, I don't mind taking pictures, and especially if you have obviously a friend that's willing to sit down and watch it. So you have the images here. I think this is the 14 Pro. This is the 12, and then
Hmm.
they jump over to the drink, but then they take this picture. She's like, "It's done.
Mm,
Like, please, it's over, right? I mean, we got it.
yeah,
You're good." Um,
it's
but yeah,
funny.
a lot of different things kind of going in there. So the 50 megapixel is going to be the 1/1.1.43. That's going to be the one for the telephoto with OIS.
Mm.
Um, or no, wait, I take that back. No, no, no. Is it? I think it's the 64 half inch sensor at f2.6 with OIS is going to be the telephoto. I could be wrong, and I think the 50 maybe they're ultra wide.
So I
Or
thought the 64 was the same. I might have this wrong. And I'm looking at my phone right now, not like actually pulling up specs and stuff. I thought the telephoto sensor was going to be the same as the OnePlus Open's telephoto, but on a longer focal length lens,
which would
where
put it as the 60. I want to say
that
the
would be the 64. And it would
yeah.
be this surprisingly good OmniVision.
Mhm.
OmniVision has never made a great sensor in my entire gadget reviewing history, but using this telephoto, it's almost pixel good. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
shocking to see OmniVision listed on the part sheet for a telephoto sensor like this.
It is. I think it's stacking up to be. Well, I'll say this. It's stacking up to be more of OnePlus coming back to trying to give us more of a powerful device. It's not stacking up to
Yeah.
be more of the. I mean, don't get me wrong. The 11 is a great device. It offers a lot of great
Mhm.
functionalities, and it has a lot of things that are done right with it. But
We're
it
probably
also, for
still going to
me,
lose some of the experimental stuff. Like, I don't see 4K 120 coming back to a
man,
OnePlus.
yeah, because that was something. Yeah,
I'm
we
bummed
didn't
about
get it
that.
back with the Open. That was one thing I was looking
No.
forward to. That didn't come back. But I think it's going to come down obviously to the high readout sensors and what they're able to do
Hmm.
there. But as long as I'm hoping we get, I'll say this: I'm hoping we get video out. I'm hoping we get
Yeah. With it
that
back on the
part.
OnePlus Open, how much did you miss it on the OnePlus 11? Right?
It became such an obvious conversation of like, oh my god, this is well, it's so for me, I'll be very honest. It's devices like the RayNeos, it's devices like the Rokids,
Yeah.
the X Reels, these
Hmm.
solutions. I mean, seriously, at early bird pricing was like 299 for a
Yeah.
brand new pair of these guys.
So
Who?
my mom was helping my grandmother out last week before we
Mhm,
had to kind of come together and support the other side of the family here.
mhm.
And she was having these huge problems with my grandmother's Roku TV. She just wanted to show like this video that she subscribed to. It's a channel that's it's a subscription on Vimeo. And Vimeo doesn't have an app for Roku, so she's trying to figure all this stuff out. She eventually got to the point where she was like, well, I've seen in some videos that you just like plug a phone into a TV. Is that something I can do? And you're like, unfortunately, mom, you have OnePlus XT. So no, you don't have video out. I mean, it's one of those things where you eventually get to a problem solving state where your phone can be the catch-all in a
Mhm.
situation like that specifically, if it supports that feature. And it's funny, I think that's actually one of the things that's pushing my mom now to consider a phone upgrade after all this time. She's been
Finally.
rocking this OnePlus 6T. She's
Yeah.
proud, that she's using a phone this long, but the
Geez,
fact
she
that she
wins the
couldn't.
award of the 5-year turnaround, man. Think about it, man. We've talked about
Yeah,
this since then. I remember we talked about it when the McLaren came out. And you're like, "Nope, my
yeah.
mom likes the 6T. She's perfectly fine with it." Like, "Are you
She's
sure?
been
8,
and
9?"
she's
No.
still pretty much good with it, but she kind of understood this was a specific use case. This
Mhm.
is not something she's ever going to do regularly. But you know what? Spending that little bit more on a phone that has a feature like that would have come in handy as the solution for this problem when I need it, but
Yeah.
I didn't have that. And that's
Well,
one of
and you
those
probably
things
didn't know
like
you
once you
needed
show
it.
people
And you didn't know you needed it when you first got the phone. That was the thing about we had video out on
perfect.
OnePlus
Yeah.
devices, but not a lot of people were talking about it. It was there,
Hmm.
and it just kind of fell right under the radar. We were excited about it because we could plug in and do screen mirroring. And then we always just got a chance to play like desktop with the Android desktop in there because you get a chance to see what it looks like. Um, so again, I hope that that feature comes back. Obviously,
Same.
the different experiences that we're talking about here are pretty much just what made OnePlus unique. Obviously, the notification slider. Those are the type of the solution that we appreciate,
Mhm.
and of course, optimization with Color OS and slash Oxygen OS 14, which
And
technically is still in
also,
beta, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll have to see.
but also, I mean, I think we're all got to be really concerned that the OnePlus 12 is going to launch with 2023 charging specs.
Oh my God, don't give me those conversations. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's old charging. Why would anyone want to use charging from 2023? I mean,
Are,
that's just a terrible way to. It's
what,
old,
what
TK.
what is it?
It's
What is it? Is
old.
it that slow? Is it that slow 80 watt, or or is it that
Okay, so
slightly
I'm
faster
obviously
100?
I got real pissy and snarky on all the social media. I shared it on literally every social media
Oh, I
platform that
saw.
I'm on right
I
now.
saw. I was with you right there.
So there was this headline: OnePlus 12 to launch with 2023
33
charging
charging
specifications,
spec.
and in the article, they don't even say what the wattage is. They describe it as the voltage and the amps. So you would have to do the multiplication to get to watt. I mean, it's the same 100-watt international 80-watt charging. It's
US.
the
Yeah.
fastest charging phone in North America. It's like 3 times faster charging than iPhone is. And every bit about the article felt perfectly manicured and obfuscating to make it seem like OnePlus is using old technology. Because if you're used to hearing like, oh, Samsung has 45-watt charging, Apple has 27-watt charging. Oh, okay. Well, what's the watts? Oh, OnePlus, they have what is it? Nine, was it 9 and 11, 9.1 and 11?
I
Anyway,
was
but yeah, if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
sitting there like what are the voltage and the amperage of this charger, that's not how we talk about it. We talk about it in wattage. And this article purposely went out of its way to not say it's an 80-watt charger in North America, which is included in the box.
Fox.
So I was very disappointed in the quality of that journalism on a headline that was obviously like pandering to iPhone owners.
It is absolutely, yeah. I mean, when it comes down to the creativity level that you get to get people to click on an article, it's just
Hmm.
yeah. No, I know. It's like reinventing. I don't. I'm not gonna say it. Real. So the story. So I saw your post. I think it was I saw it on X, and I was like, "Oh crap! Like seriously, man, what is the level you'd have to go down to get people to click on an
Yeah.
article?" The fact is, the phone isn't launched yet. We are seeing some technical information coming out from a photography based event for Oppo that
Hmm.
OnePlus's conversation kind of goes in there because they share a lot of information and a lot of hardware. So obviously I'm pretty sure we're not going to have to wait too long for the launch of the OnePlus
Nah.
12. I'm pretty sure obviously it's going to be launching in China first, as it typically does,
What
and
do you,
then
what do you
we'll see
think
an
the
international one.
delay is going to be? Because we know it'll launch China first. We think it'll be a month before it's starting to show up in Europe, or do you think it's going
I
to be like after, or like closer to
I
MWC?
I'll say this. I'll say okay. I would love for it to be faster and sooner.
Hmm.
I am not sure if it's going to, because if unless it goes in with carriers and so on, then that typically will add a certain number of months of delay because of certifications and so on. And it
I
seems
don't
like
think it's
OnePlus
going
is.
to carriers
Oh
next
no,
year.
but that's
I
what
don't
I'm
think they're
saying.
going to play
I
that
think
game.
OnePlus is probably going to go along the line of no, we're going to just go straight up by ourselves again. So if we go in that manner and we look at it this way, I think I'm pretty. I'll say this: maybe January, maybe February, but not, well, because if you say
Hmm.
February, then that is MWC. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, we had the 11 was out by MWC, right? Because I remember I saw the concept version of the 11 at MWC, and I think that wasn't too long after. So there's a good chance we may see the OnePlus 10, sorry, 10, the OnePlus 12 launch somewhere in January. I'd probably
Hmm.
predict a little bit, maybe if not late December, but because they probably wouldn't do it on the holiday. They'll do it like right after. So I'm
Yeah,
thinking maybe around maybe CES or closer to
that'd be
CES.
tight because I mean that was IQ launch time. IQ launched real early
So
this
the
year.
pre-orders for the so I didn't get a chance to find out what the date is for availability for the iQOO 12. I know it went up on pre-order, and I saw some leaks
Mhm.
about information about it. With obviously the 12 and the 12 Pro, I think is what they're putting it in as pre-orders, and I'm not sure which
Yeah.
if both are going to be available globally. There's the other
Hmm.
thing. Um, but Qualcomm kind of threw the wrench at the whole machine and the timeline and reality and which multiverse are we in and MCU and DC and like seriously, are we watching Spider-Man? Are we in the multiverse, and is this the Matrix conversation kind of thing?
Sure.
All of this is going to be really new things for us. I mean, we'll have to find out. I'll say that I wouldn't be surprised if it does come out earlier.
Yeah.
December, I feel like maybe the China, because we're like already in November,
I
right?
think so.
And today's
Yeah.
what, like today's what the blah, 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 I keep forgetting. Today's the 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 8th, 9th.
10th.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it.
Because it's midnight here on the East Coast. It is now the 10th.
Wait, you're in the future?
I am in the future. Let me tell you,
How does it look?
November 10th
How,
is pretty great.
okay.
I'm really
It
enjoying it.
seems like a good day so far. Okay, good, good, good.
Pretty good day so far. Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Great.
I think you've got a lot to look forward to over the
I'm looking
next three
forward to right
hours.
now. I'm actually so much looking forward to talking to you in a
I,
different
I,
time
want to
zone.
I want to start landing this plane just because I am about to just keel over at some point very soon here. But I did want to
That's for
hard
the after
shift
party.
gears because
Yeah.
obviously we talked a little bit about Qualcomm, the Qualcomm Summit. It just felt like over this last week, there
Mhm.
was a lot of buzz talking about the new Apple M3 against Intel, AMD, and of course
Oh,
what
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
Qualcomm is trying
especially
to
with
do
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
the X Elite. And I'm not very frustrated. I actually want to give a shout out to to some of the writers over at Windows Central because I think they
Mhm.
did a pretty good job of trying to break down some of the confusion that we've been seeing. And so I saw their article go up, and I like, okay, I feel like I can kind of add a little bit more to this. I posted an editorial around my Patreon. That should go public over the next couple of days after I'm done with this kind of travel. But one of the things that I think has been really confusing is how some manufacturers talk about your processor power, like processor TDP, and other manufacturers talk about the entire system TDP. And Qualcomm gave us specs for their sort of test systems at system TDP. So you
Oh,
see, like this is a system that's an 80-watt laptop, and then Apple says, "Oh, but our M3 Pro is a 30 or 50 watt," and you're like, "Oh, so the Apple must be like 50% more efficient." And you're
yeah.
like, "Well, but they're talking about just their SoC, not the entire system. And the entire system can draw as much as 90 watts." So now we're having these kind of different. We're talking past each other when we're saying, "Oh, this system draws this much power, delivers this much performance, and arrives at this kind of Geekbench score." And of course, Geekbench scores are functionally useless at predicting real world app performance in
I
the
thought they
apps
were
you'll
the
really use.
standard of everything, but yes, go on. Mhm.
I mean, if you're a lazy hack reviewer and you don't have anything to contribute to the conversation because you don't actually use your phones, tablets, or laptops to do anything, then sure, a Geekbench score is great. But if you actually try to do stuff, like I cut together a video on my phone for my daughter's Dia de los Muertos celebration, and
Yes,
it
I saw that.
was shot, edited, rendered, and uploaded all from my Pixel 8 Pro because you do things on phones when you really use phones. I digress. This is one of the things that has got me critically excited about what Qualcomm is claiming is that they have a test configuration for a laptop at 80 watts and a test configuration for a laptop at 23 watts.
That is crazy.
And if they have a system that delivers some of these, their synthetic benchmark scores, they are wholly unreliable for real world use. But if they can stay under 30 watts, they're near the performance synthetic benchmarks on something like an Apple M3, not an M3 Pro, just a regular M3, but at like a 20-watt power reduction. And that
Wow.
could be very exciting for Windows laptops into 2020, at the end of 2024.
Yeah,
Because
2024,
we know,
2025, as we start getting more adoption and more
yeah,
devices
well, I
or more
mean,
PCs
we
coming.
have a deal, we have a bet going on who's actually going to use one of these chips first, and we'll have to treat each other to lunch. And I think you're probably going to win. But that's to me the most exciting part of this is right now you can get a 13th gen Intel Core i7. The
Mhm.
Core i7 will outperform the in again synthetic benchmarks will deliver better synthetic benchmarks than Qualcomm's X Elite, but the Intel 13th, the Intel Core i7 is
Okay.
currently idling at around 20 watts, doing nothing, and with the screen set to minimum brightness, the Intel machine is drawing almost as much power as the low wattage version of the X Elite at full load. That Core i7 will draw as much as 150 watts
Mhm.
in a Lenovo, and Lenovo only packages that laptop with a 140-watt charger. So if your machine doesn't throttle, it will drain the battery faster than the
Then
battery
you're
can
able to charge
charge
can charge, yep.
at 150 watts, almost twice the power draw of Qualcomm's highest spec version of their chip at an 80-watt chip. So it's these types of performance metrics. I bet you Intel into next year will still win the outright speed awards,
Okay.
but they're not going to be anywhere near the power efficiency awards. And we might be looking at entry levels, or I should say entry. I don't think these will be cheap. I think they'll still be premium priced laptops, but
Absolutely.
little ultrabooks going head to head against MacBooks and maybe beating them by like 30% power draw. And the MacBook is already an incredible performance per watt kind of system.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's crazy to see. One of the other reasons why when I was looking at what we saw with the refresh on the M3s and the M3 Pro and all of that good stuff, I was excited to see what they offered, and I saw again, I've been waiting for Qualcomm and Orion since last year, since when the announcement was originally teased at the end
I've
of the
been
event.
digging into those Orion cores since that team of engineers left Apple.
And and no, and we got a chance to play with the 8CX, nine, sorry,
Yeah,
the 9, the sorry, the 8CX, but essentially it was the Surface Pro 9 5G, and
yeah.
it is absolutely one of the best solutions. I mean, for me at the time, obviously we don't have those devices anymore, but my goal essentially is to see what are we able to do with solutions, software solution. I mean, we saw what's
Mm-hmm.
it called? I think DaVinci made their commitment to
DaVinci's going to be
release.
coming.
So as at the moment that starts coming, these PCs are going to become legit production machines.
Well,
The
and
moment
this
you're able to
also has,
render and produce, because obviously
for sure.
there's going to be other companies, but yeah,
But the other thing that's also kind of important here is that experience. One of the areas where our current Windows on ARM solutions suffer is you're already starting with a system that's kind of like a two-generation old Core i3, and
yeah,
actually
yeah.
that's not bad. It's pretty good. And even if you're doing Android emulation in Windows 11, it's performance that easily hangs with last year's Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. Like it's neck and neck with some of the best that Android tablets have had to offer over the last year or two. But when you're working in a performance envelope like that, you don't have a lot of spare horsepower to help nudge along Windows emulation for legacy apps in an ARM environment. And
Mhm.
that's where the thing can kind of get bogged down. You're giving me this substantial of a performance improvement, and you can give me a little extra power headroom so that I can sort of ramp up a bit more, then I think that helps bring some of that emulation. This is one why the M1 was so exciting, is even when it was emulating x86 software, it was doing it pretty much near or slightly ahead of the performance of x86 MacBooks. So it didn't feel like you took a significant performance
No,
penalty
exactly.
making the jump to M1. And then when apps were properly optimized for M1, you got that performance benefit. I think
Yeah.
2024 is the year we might see Windows on ARM finally stick that landing.
I hope so, and I really hope that we get an adoption from multiple companies, and we get different flavors of these devices,
Yeah.
not just. I mean,
I
don't get
think
me wrong.
Lenovo's
Yeah,
definitely a lock. I'm getting more anxious that because Microsoft cut so much of their Surface team that we
I was
might
about.
not
Yeah, I was gonna
see
like. I would have thought Microsoft would have been the shoe in for it. Again, as we've seen in the past,
in the
it's
past,
just.
but now I'm
Yeah.
anxious. Yeah.
Now I'm like thinking Lenovo may just come in there and it's like, let me show you what
But
I can
I,
do.
I don't think an HP would be completely outside the scope of this
Oh no,
because
no,
they also
absolutely.
do a lot of work on client and ID issued
Hmm.
machines. This would be a
We
really
started
good
to
solution for
see
field.
in my day job, although I still have an i9 Mac for my for my PC, my work PC. We're
Mhm.
starting to see the M1, the M series to show. I'm sorry, not the M1, the
Oh yeah,
M2 series showing up. Some challenges a little bit where we start talking about emulation. We're trying to have like a um, what is it called? Not BombGuard. Man, Windows emulators, parallels, like parallel
oh
issues,
yeah,
running parallels on these things. So we're still, I mean, even with M3 right now being available and so on, there's still some challenges, at least on the business side. This is where I feel like HP is pretty much 90% of their bread and butter is. It's more so business than it is consumer.
yeah,
Um, but it is absolutely refreshing to be able to say, hey, I can provide you a PC that has one fourth of the power draw that you were using before, but comparable experience for your office suites,
yeah,
your solutions running Windows natively. Obviously, I'm not, they're not going to have to worry about emulation on their side because they're not going to have to emulate Mac.
no.
Nobody, we don't usually typically do Mac OS emulation. Um, but yes, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing on that Windows PC? I'm running Mac OS, Ventura. No,
I'm running
it's
Mac OS poorly.
yeah, exactly. Um, it's typically just more of those solutions. So I'm excited to see what we get. I'm hoping with the pricing being a little bit more affordable, maybe some different solutions. But it is again for me when I looked at the Mac on the side with the M3, as much as a power improvement and everything that they were doing, honestly, I still produce 4K 60 frames per second videos at a what is it called? At a zero point 0.7 ratio to time and render.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as long as I'm still getting these numbers, there is
Hmm.
these are one of the machines like you do not upgrade. It works, it does the job, and it cuts through everything. The only time I get it that it does chuckle a little bit, and then I say it depends on the files I get from you. When I get your when we did the collab on the open and so on,
Yeah.
it had
Yeah. Those
Panasonic files. Sometimes it does have a little bit, and then I
they get a
just
little chuggy.
well, so I yeah, and then so I run it through and then
I,
render it
next
as
time, next time we do that, I had the Atomos Ninja plugged in. I could have given you like Apple ProRes HQ, and that would have been
that would have been
a
butter.
lot smoother. Would have run like butter.
Yeah, my friend, that's how you do it. ProRes
Well,
for the win.
I'm turning into a pumpkin here, but
No, no,
we've got
absolutely.
quite a bit more to talk about as we start getting into this next week. Because of my travel plan, I'm not going to get another video out this week, but
That's
I
okay.
might write up just like a little travel. Um, I'm not going to blow anyone's mind here, but let me say it is delicious traveling with a phone like a foldable
Mhm.
and a little Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and I'm going through TSA security, and I don't have to pull anything out of my bag. But I
They're like,
got
"Sir,
writing done on the
all
plane,
laptops all laptops." I was like, "I just don't have it, man. Are you
and you're
sure,
like,
sir? Are
anything
you
bigger
sure?"
than a cell phone, you got to take it out of your bag. And I'm like, I win. So I
So
might write
I
up a little article just talking about like some lightweight work, and also I want to showcase again sort of that experience of I shot a school event and the PTA, or they call it PFA, at my daughter's school went crazy, and so I like the entire school has seen the video that I put together from the Pixel 8 Pro. Being able to do that, I was almost done editing that video during the event, and it was super discreet because like you shoot a little video clip, you just drop it right into your timeline. Oh, look, the kids are playing, and I shot a little video of it, and I drop it into my timeline, and it doesn't take you out of the moment as much as you think it would. And then I got home, and all I had to do was just make a couple little minor timing adjustments to some of the clips and hit render. And that is not a workflow that I think people are used to if they have to transfer their files to a laptop and organize what they're going to do and come up with their shot list. Like
no,
it's a
absolutely.
lot different. So I'm going to try and get that article written. I don't know that I'll get it published tomorrow, but maybe over the weekend. What do you have coming out next for your channel?
So I think it's just one more video that I got a chance to shoot. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to post last week with everything kind of going on. Soundcore sent me over a couple of pair of their open ear buds.
Oh yeah, yeah, those look
Another,
fun.
yeah, the Aerofits one. Look at, I mean, it's an interesting approach. It's not bone conduction; it's directional audio beaming directly into your
Hmm.
ears. Very
Yeah,
personal, very interesting solution, but great for for exercise, for
for
audio,
awareness. Yeah,
and well, but not but okay, so the big thing that kind of surprised me is that how they were able to get that much sound out of them
yeah,
to still sound like soundcore, you know what I mean? Like they
yeah.
didn't lose the soundcore signature, which was my biggest worry because
It's a core part of their business sound.
oh, yes. Um, but I do want to say before we ended this, I do want to share this with you because this was absolutely one of my fun things. Today I got a chance to spend some time with Polestar and check out their new Polestar 3, 4, 5,
Nice.
and Roadster. But I took a ride and I got a chance to ride a Polestar 2 for the first time. And as I was driving, I had one of the obviously they had somebody sitting with me in the car. I had the lady take videos and pictures of me in the car as
Mhm.
I was driving. And then when we finished at the end, I landed. This is just funny. TK talks weird shit. So hold on, let me see if I can get this. So this is we took this picture. She took this picture of me sitting there. I'm waiting there, obviously, absolutely set up correctly with the everything. But she didn't realize she was holding a foldable. That's what I was trying to land to. She
Nice.
was holding the phone like this, and I was like, "Oh, wow, this looks really good. Let me open it up." She's like, "Oh, what did you just do?" She stepped back like as if I just broke the phone. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like the guy that takes the laptop and says, "Hey, look, mine is a foldable."
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
And
so
just
I did
smash
that,
it.
and she's like, "What did you just do?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a foldable. It's an Epic phone." And she's like, "That is a
Super
cool
great.
phone." I was like, "Yes, it is.
It is.
Thank you very much for the ride." That's how I
I
ended it.
agree. Mhm.
So yeah, with that being said, I know we didn't get a chance to talk about the CH65. We'll talk. I'll try to put something out, hopefully, maybe in the next couple of days or so. For me, at least tomorrow, that the Aerofit video is going to be kind of crowning or closing the crowning for me for this week. A lot of content kind of still coming up. Hopefully, you and I will be able to do an in person, show
Yeah.
at some point in the near future. Wink,
That'd be
wink.
nice. We
It'd
should
be
we should
nice.
try to make that happen.
Maybe be in the same zip code for once. God help us all. No, no, seriously. But I do want to say thank you very much, Juan, for joining us at least while you're traveling in the
Yeah.
future. I didn't
For
realize you
sure.
were doing future stuff at this point. And everybody, please, hope you guys are doing great. Let us know on the socials, of course. If you're listening to this, obviously the audio podcast will come out a little bit later. And of course, show links and all of that good stuff for us to be able to check us out. And make sure to check out Mr. Juan on Monday on the SGDQ Wave on his podcast, also hosted on this channel. So if you're subscribed to this channel,
Hmm.
you're not going to miss it out. You're going to be there.
Nope.
But with that being said, thank you very much for the support. Like and subscribe. And of course, we'll see you next week at a secret location.
Hmm.
Have fun, everybody.
Mystery.